Something feels wrong, but not in a dramatic way. Not like chaos, not like crisis, more like a quiet unraveling beneath everything. You go through the motions. You show up. You do what's expected. But some part of you is watching it all from a distance, wondering, why doesn't any of this feel like mine anymore? There's a weight in your chest you can't explain, a silence behind your thoughts that wasn't there before, a strange urge to stop pretending you're okay, even though you can't yet explain what's not, and maybe no one else sees it. Because on the outside, nothing looks broken, but inside, something's shifting, dismantling, calling you inward. And that call, it's not confusion, it's departure. Because the version of you that built this life was built inside a system you no longer belong to. And now that version is fading. You're not lost. You're being rewritten. This is not where things end. It's where they stop making sense just long enough for you to finally see what's real. And what's real can't be explained yet, only felt. Let this video be a mirror. You're not here by mistake. You're here because you heard the frequency beneath the noise, and something in you finally answered. This isn't personal, even though it feels like it is. Even though it's happening in your body, your mind, your voice, your dreams. What you're feeling right now, this numbness, this distance, this strange pull inward, isn't just yours. It's a collective unraveling, a slow motion collapse of the energetic structure that once held the old world together. And you're feeling it first because you're sensitive to distortion. You can feel when a frequency is dying, even if no one else around you is saying it out loud. This is why. Conversations feel empty. Your desires feel artificial. The pace of the world feels unbearable. You're suddenly uninterested in performing who you used to be. You're not falling apart. You're falling out of resonance with what was never real. Because for decades, lifetimes even, you've lived inside a grid built on fear, urgency, control, and compliance. And that grid is thinning. Not in headlines, not in visible collapse, but in vibration. Which means your field is unplugging. Your nervous system is no longer syncing to survival-based patterns. Your thoughts are no longer looping in scarcity logic. Your heart is no longer motivated by approval. And that disconnection feels like stillness. But it's actually freedom in its earliest form. The version of you that was calibrated to a dying field can no longer survive there. Not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown it. What you're feeling now is what it means to leave a frequency before the external world catches up. That's why it's lonely. That's why it's quiet. That's why everything that used to feel normal now feels like it's vibrating just slightly out of sync. You're not imagining this. You're ahead of it. And the question now isn't whether the field is dissolving. It is. The question is, will you let yourself dissolve with it? Or will you hold steady long enough to become the one who rises from what remains? Let's be honest, you've been trying to make it work. The mindset, the habits, the routines, the healing, the push. But something in you is done, not in a dramatic collapsing way, but in a deep cellular kind of way that says, I can't pretend this fits anymore. That's not weakness, that's an energetic refusal. Because whether you've realized it or not, you've outgrown the structure your old self depended on. And that structure was never just mental, it was vibrational. It lived in how you carried yourself, how you responded to urgency, how you performed around people who couldn't see you, how you self-corrected in rooms that demanded masks. But now that framework is thinning, and your system is saying, no more. No more faking it to stay useful. No more running on fear just to feel alive. No more chasing purpose through exhaustion. What you're feeling now isn't burnout, it's withdrawal. You're not exhausted because you've done too much. You're exhausted because your field is still trying to power an identity that your soul has already stepped out of. And that dissonance, it's draining. That's why you feel emotionally flat. Nothing excites you. You forget basic things. You feel like time bends but goes nowhere. You start and stop tasks with no momentum. This isn't a block, it's an exit. The version of you that ran on external validation is being deconstructed. And your nervous system is learning what it means to exist without performance. And that is deeply disorienting, because rest doesn't feel safe yet. Stillness feels suspicious. Silence feels like failure. But that's just your survival code, reacting to freedom. The body doesn't recognize peace at first because it was trained to live inside pressure. So now, As the pressure fades, you feel like something's missing. What's missing isn't a part of you. It's the tension you mistook for identity. And this is the point where most people rebuild too fast. They rush to fix, to clarify, to fill the space. But this space, this emptiness, is sacred. It's not where you lose yourself. It's where you meet the version of you that doesn't need distortion to survive. So here's the invitation. Let your field stop working so hard. Let your body soften. Let your mind not know, because you're not failing. You're disconnecting from the frequency that created the illusion of failure. And from that disconnection, a new signal will rise. Not louder, but truer. This isn't just a shift, it's an evacuation from a self you performed, from a field you adapted to, from a timeline you no longer belong to. But it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in waves, and those waves come in stages. Here are the 5 stages of this disconnection. You may not move through them in order. You may revisit them again and again. But once you recognize them, you stop resisting what was always meant to be released. 1. The disruption. At first, everything feels misaligned. Nothing dramatic, just slightly off. You don't resonate with the music you used to love. You lose interest mid-sentence. You look around and think, why does this life feel like it belongs to someone else? This is your field loosening. Your system unhooking from what was never true. You're not broken. You're sensing the end of a template. 2. The retreat. You stop showing up the same way, not out of apathy, but clarity. You stop texting back. You cancel plans. You turn down opportunities that once excited you. You feel like you're pulling away, and you are, because the space around you has to change before the truth in you can breathe. 3. The flood. The silence creates room, and that room fills quickly. Old emotions, forgotten memories, outdated beliefs. They rise. You cry for no reason. You grieve a life that never really existed. You get angry at people who never heard you. This is not regression. This is residue. Your body is finally processing what your mind never had time to feel. Let it pass through. 4. The flatline. After the flood, there's stillness. You wake up and feel blank. Not depressed, just quiet. Your thoughts don't race. Your desires don't scream. Even your fears have nothing left to say. This is the emptiness before clarity, the space between identities, where nothing needs to be named because everything is being reset. Don't rush it. This is sacred. 5. The recognition. It doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't come with clarity. It comes as a whisper. You make a decision and you don't second guess it. You set a boundary and feel no guilt. You breathe and it finally lands in your body. Not because everything's resolved, but because something in you has returned. This is the new foundation. Subtle, unshakable, yours. These stages don't make you immune to the world. They simply strip away the parts of you that believed you had to become something to deserve what's already inside you. This is the collapse of performance, the rise of presence. And once it starts, there's no going back. Only deeper in. You don't need more advice. You don't need another breakthrough. You need structure that doesn't demand performance. You need rituals that hold you without asking you to explain yourself. Because what's leaving your life right now was never meant to stay. And what's arriving will only take root in the parts of you that stop pretending. Here are 7 practices to help you hold your field as everything false dissolves. 1. Claim your energy first thing in the morning, before your phone, before the notifications, before you remember who the world expects you to be. Sit up, close your eyes, place your hands on your body, and say, I return to myself. I release performance. I move from truth today. This single act tells your subconscious we're not repeating yesterday. 2. Honor the impulse to move slowly. Speed is a trauma response. It's how we outrun ourselves. Let yourself slow down. Speak slower. Breathe slower. Decide slower. Slowness isn't stagnation. It's recalibration. Your nervous system needs a new rhythm. Let it find one that's based on safety, not survival. 3. Make one aligned choice per day. Ask, what am I doing today that contradicts who I'm becoming? Now shift just one thing. Say no. Turn down the thing. Speak the truth. Choose rest. Be honest, quietly. One aligned act creates a crack where your real frequency can breathe. 4. Clean the space where you've been lying to yourself. Not your whole house, not your whole life. Just one drawer, one folder, one app, one memory, one voice in your head. Ask, is this from a version of me that I'm still pretending to be? If so, let it go. Clearing space isn't aesthetic, it's energetic honesty. 5. Protect your silence like it's sacred. You don't owe anyone a version of you that no longer feels real. So take 10 minutes each day, no input, no music, no messages, no movement. Let your system speak, not the story, not the ego, but the still part of you that's rebuilding everything from nothing. 6. Close the day with a frequency reset. Before sleep, don't scroll, don't review the past, don't problem solve. Sit still, breathe. Say, I let go of what I carried today. I return to center. I choose rest as recalibration. Let sleep become sanctuary, not shutdown. 7. Speak as the one who has already returned. Language is programming. Stop saying, I'm lost. I don't know who I am. Nothing makes sense. Start saying, I'm remembering. I'm stabilizing. I'm releasing what no longer matches my frequency. You're not lying. You're anchoring. Your field doesn't need certainty. It needs coherence. These are not tasks. They're invitations. You're not rebuilding right now. You're reseeding. And every quiet action you take in this space tells the universe, I'm no longer asking for clarity. I'm building the capacity to receive it. You've just walked through a quiet collapse, not a breakdown, a breakaway. From roles you no longer fit, from timelines you never chose, from stories that required your silence just to survive. And even if you don't know what's next, even if you still feel lost in the in-between, what you've done already matters. You stayed, you felt, you didn't rush back to noise. You didn't rebuild the illusion just to avoid the void. And that is how the real shift begins. Not with action, with allowance. Because what's arriving now in your life doesn't want your effort. It wants your resonance. And resonance doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be felt, trusted, chosen. So if this video landed, if something in you softened or cracked open or finally exhaled, you're not broken. You're in alignment. You're no longer waiting for proof. You're becoming the evidence, not to convince anyone, but to finally live a life that reflects your internal reality. If something clicked, if something shifted, say it out loud. Anchor it. Drop one sentence below. What are you leaving behind? What are you now willing to face without explaining it away? What's one truth that doesn't need a plan, only your presence? Let this be the moment your shift becomes real. Let this be the thread someone else holds onto when they're floating in their own unraveling. And if this message found you, it's because you were already tuning into it. So stay here, with the stillness, with the clarity that hasn't landed yet, with the truth that doesn't need language to be real. This isn't just a video, it's a signal. And the fact that you heard it means you're already on your way.